road to growth. Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Roach Growth listeners. Today I have, oh man, sorry about that. It's cold season right now. Michele Wang. She is the founder and CEO of Sagely. Did I say it right? Sagely, right?
Yes, Sagely.
Because I know you have Sages and Sagely, and I was like, okay, that's how I say it. I was going to say something else, and I was like, yeah, Sage, that's right.
Yeah, Sagely. And our advisors are called Sages.
Sages, yeah. So, I guess if you guys can, listeners, get the gist of how the company works. You have advisors, you have entrepreneurs, basically people that have been there already, people that are trying to get to the place that those sages have already been. And I think one thing that kind of separates Sagely is that you have entrepreneurs or business owners, right, that have a specific skill set. And so if there's an issue with or an item that comes up for that entrepreneur, they kind of know which path or which person to reach out to. Is that roughly kind of the idea?
Yeah, so my background is mostly corporate, but I did a bit of small business consulting. And also, my parents were small business owners. So really like just witnessed kind of firsthand how challenging it was for them and how little kind of resources are available for small business owners when they run into these issues that inevitably kind of just come up in your business. And so with Sagely, we're really trying to kind of level the playing field and democratize access to that knowledge and experience. So with our platform, small business owners and entrepreneurs for a subscription can access our network of sages. So they have varying kind of functional area expertise, industry expertise, and can really help them kind of steer them in the right direction.
Now, what separates you? Because I mean, it seems more and more popular, right? Where you have a coach, right? I guess the previous idea, I mean, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago was just a mentor, like someone you know, they're
Mhm.
mentoring you. Now it seems like there's so many gurus and coaches online that you can kind of take on. What do you think separates you guys? And you kind of already talked about roughly, but what separates you guys from those kind of platforms?
The first thing is I think that we're doing more than just connecting to people, right? And so Sagely is built, like every aspect of Sagely is built around kind of small businesses and early stage kind of entrepreneurship. And so the problems that small businesses and early entrepreneurs face are varied, right? And so like one day you can have an issue with sales and the next day you can have an issue with marketing. And your coach or your mentor isn't going to be an expert at absolutely everything, right? And so our platform is essentially like a subscription based board of advisors that gives you access to a lot of experts in different areas.
And I mean, with that, how do you mean? Because again, going back to so much digital coaches out there, right? And you don't know who's who, if what they're saying is really real. I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of vetting goes on with the sages that you have on your page and people you connect entrepreneurs to?
We have a pretty robust vetting kind of process. So we have a wait list of coaches and we interview each one and we kind of assess them based on different kind of criteria about their experience, level of emotional intelligence. Do they have kind of customer facing consulting experience? Do they have small business experience? And then we also train them on our proprietary framework that's really built for problem solving on a small business kind of scale.
Well, let's rewind. I mean, so young Michelle, you said your parents were business owners, you were an entrepreneur. I mean, so what was it like growing up with parents that were business owners?
Great and rough at the same time. You know, my sister and I remember we'd have to go to help out my dad. at his store every weekend. And, being the oldest, I was the one kind of reading legal documents, translating. They're also first generation immigrants. Pretty typical kind of immigrant small business owner story, right? Um, and even when I went off to college, I would fly back on weekends to help them with inventory. I remember one time I put all of their inventory into Excel and they were just blown away. Right? They're like, oh my gosh, what is this magic spreadsheet?
Well, okay, so they immigrated to the U.S., right? What, and then I guess you and your sister were born in the U.S., or did you guys
Yes, I
immigrate
was
too?
I
Or
was born and raised here.
okay,
So I'm second generation.
so what was that process like? Because it's always interesting when I have either first generation or sometimes second generation, the mindset of kind of looking at the world, looking at life, because they had a way of what their norm was previously, wherever they came from, and now this is their new norm. And sometimes it seems like they can get fairly aggressive to their children to show them, "Hey, you have it so good here," or things like that. What was that? What was that childhood like right there?
You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I think one story comes to mind. When I was in my teens, my parents needed to go on a business trip to Hong Kong, and they brought me along and kind of tagged on a little tour, like a summer vacation. And they took me to like this really rural area in China, and they're like, "Look, they're still bathing in the river there. Look how good you have it." And so I did have it really good. They instilled kind of a really hardworking kind of work ethic, um, focus on education, right? And just being kind of thrifty from the get-go, even if you have a little more money in the bank, right? To always be scrappy for how you spend. So these are just some of the skills that were kind of ingrained in us growing up.
Was it a necessity? Was it basically your want to go to college? Was it more of your parents guiding you in that direction? I mean, what was your schooling looking like earlier on?
I definitely wanted to go to college. So I was born and raised in Hawaii,
Okay.
and I love Hawaii. But, I think when I turned 16, I was like, get me off of this rock. I wanted to see the world, and education and just kind of moving away to get my education was one of the ways that I plan to do that. So it was always a personal thing. I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be kind of naturally curious
Hmm.
and always asking questions.
So was that the idea behind college, to be curious about something more, just to get away, find a way to get off the island? I mean, what was the intention of college, or maybe it was corporate world? I mean, what was the intention of college? Do you remember?
I mean, it's just for me, it was like a necessary next step. I had to go to college. But I also wanted to. I was really excited about just getting off the island, learning and seeing more. So a little bit of both.
And when you went to college, was it a pathway to entrepreneurship, or was it a pathway? I mean, when you're in college now, is it enjoying the time? Because I know when you're in college, sometimes it's more about enjoying it. Sometimes it's more about basically, hey, I have a pathway, I have a goal to start my own business. I mean, what was that when you're actually there?
Um, it was a little bit of both. Definitely did a lot of, had a lot of fun in college, learned a lot. But I feel like one of the only times I've ever been depressed was in college.
Hmm.
And there was no reason for me to be depressed. I feel like I had everything I needed. I didn't lack for anything. I had a great job. I was a bookkeeper. Um, and school was going good. I wasn't a straight A student, but I wasn't doing that bad either. I just didn't feel I just had this kind of feeling like, oh, is this it?
Hmm.
Right? Like, is this why I was, put here on this earth? And so from kind of that experience, I've really just I think that was the moment where I realized, okay, well, I need to do something more. I need to do something bigger. Like I feel like I have the ability to make a difference and leave this world a little better place than it was when I got here. And I need to figure out a way to make that happen.
Did you have any kind of like idea of what that would be? Is something bigger than you? I mean, or is it just a
No.
thought of it? Okay.
No, so there is like a very long and winding exploratory route. Um, I was a longtime Red Cross volunteer. And so I joined the Red Cross when I was 16, volunteered in Hawaii throughout high school. And then um, kind of around the same time, I was going through this kind of existential crisis as a teenager. Do you remember Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was with the Red Cross. I had an EMT basic license at the time, wanted to go into medicine to help people, right? To make a difference. And I signed up to get deployed. And so I got deployed to Louisiana and really helped set up and volunteer at the Baton Rouge shelter, which was the biggest shelter outside of New Orleans.
Uh, would I mean, so you're in the Red Cross, you're in I mean, at the scene of Hurricane Katrina. I mean, what was that like?
It was intense. Yeah, I mean, I think in those situations, you get to see kind of like the best and the worst parts of humanity, right? And the best part was, I think that's where my love of operations as a kind of function started, right? You got to see, wow, like this nonprofit organization, was able to react faster than the US government and really help out all of these people, right? Like the amount of planning and infrastructure and partnerships and just everything that they had to have in place to be able to react so quickly was amazing. And so when I left Baton Rouge, I really kind of started my corporate kind of career path in operations.
And how did what was that with another company? Was it you building something? Okay, what is so which Red Cross and you applied another company. What happens there?
So after that experience, I pretty much worked in media entertainment
Okay.
for a little over a decade. At first, with kind of a media peripherals company, we made um, iPod and iPod. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
iPod cases and DVD and CD cases. And then from there went to a video game publisher and we did children's video games. So Garfield, Cold Lyoko, Bratz Ponies, things of that sort. And then to the Motion Picture Association, where I helped represent kind of our American movie and TV industry.
And you're there you're doing these kind of roles for over a decade. I mean, where does the passion or the want to actually build something yourself kind of come about?
The first two companies that I worked for in M&E were kind of startup-y, and so they were small businesses and growth stage, very very scrappy and operated pretty much like a startup, even though the second one, the video game publisher, was part of a larger organization. Um, and then when I joined the MPA, I joined as an individual contributor after kind of a major shakeup in just the budget and everything else. And so I think every role I've had allowed me to apply an entrepreneurial mindset.
Hmm.
And then after the MPA, I went to kind of like an M&E tech startup. So kind of bridge the gap a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things for a lot of entrepreneurs, right, is when's the process of paying yourself, right? When you're with corporate, you're getting that consistent paycheck. Entrepreneurship, you might not be getting that consistent paycheck. For you, I mean, in these startups, was it not consistent? Was it more of, we're gonna pay you today, we're gonna figure something out? What was that decade look like?
Well, no, the decade was great.
Okay,
The
it was
decade,
consistent. Okay,
yeah, it was
okay.
consistent income, paid vacations, benefits and travel benefits, all of that good stuff,
Mm,
right? And so, which makes the transition into entrepreneurship arguably harder,
mm.
right? Because you're used to kind of a certain lifestyle, and then all of a sudden, I'm back to like eating full noodles. It's not that bad, but kind of. But
Well, now, was there a thought of when, okay, I'm going to build something? What was the back and forth of saying, do I really want to fight for my next meal, or I'd rather have that consistent income, have the travel, have all those benefits? I mean, what was the strong push to say, I just need to do it?
So I said I knew kind of like why I was put here. I wanted to make a difference. I didn't really
Yeah.
realize how I wanted to do that. And then I found this really small, thin kind of fill in the blanks book at Target. And I was like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I wasn't looking for a book. Picked it up, and it was the hardest book I've ever had to like get through. Maybe we can tag it for people because I love this book. Um, and it basically kind of forced you to sit down and identify your personal values, your personal goals, and it looks at like the wheel of your life, which has like, adventure, spirituality, career, family, everything else. And you kind of identify where you are now and where you want to be. And the making a difference and your personal kind of mission just really solidified kind of while I was doing that book. And I was like, okay, well, I want to, just based on my experiences in corporate, I want to help businesses do better. I want to show people that you can make a difference and make money at the same time, and it's not either or.
Mm.
So that kind of led me into starting my own thing.
What were things that you didn't know that you found out fairly quick when you started building your business?
Um, it's really difficult going from, I admire everything that young entrepreneurs have available these days, right? At university, kind of just with the internet and everything. There's so much to learn, and you can start learning at a very young age. And when you're young, you're courageous. You don't fear anything. When you're a little older, and then when you've had like a long career and you're considered kind of like an expert in what you do, starting a different career in a brand new industry is really scary. I remember that first year, uh, there was just a lot of terminology, a lot of learning. When I got in front of, potential investors to talk to people, it was, I was constantly checking like, hey, do I have this definition right? Right? Like, am I saying the right things? Is this what they want to hear? I didn't know what like MVP was when I started out.
Well, okay. Well, for two questions. Okay. For people listening, what's MVP? Also, what's the name of the book before I forget?
Then the name of the book, I think, is Where Do You Want to Be in 5 years? And it's
Okay.
a little red fill in the blank book. I will find it and email you so you can tag it for people.
Okay.
And MVP is your minimum viable product.
Okay.
And so it's kind of the first iteration of a tech product that you put out that your users will love. And there's this movement now where your MVP or just kind of your basic prototype plus is no longer enough, right? Because of the tools that we have available now and because of very high consumer and business expectations, right? People are leaning towards building their MLP, which is their minimum lovable product. And that's what we built at Sagely.
When you started Sagely and you got on that path, what was the idea of, because I'm again, if we talked about it briefly before about being a mentor, being a coach, right? What was that trigger point of you saying, I don't want to be the one that I guess is the coach, the mentor. I want to put people that are maybe more, I guess, established in that particular field for the mentor roles or the sage roles for these entrepreneurs. Where did that kind of like change happen for you?
Well, I'm also available
Okay.
as a sage on our platform. I have very deep expertise in operations and strategy. And for us, the most of our sages are small business owners, or we're small business owners or entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And that's the key kind of difference for us, right? Because there's a lot of emotional kind of thinking pattern. It's very personal. When people say
Hmm.
business isn't personal, when it comes to a small business or entrepreneurship, there's nothing more personal, right? So you're oftentimes dealing kind of with the lifeblood of an owner, and there's a lot of emotional kind of thinking patterns. So our coaches, because they have that same background, they've been there, they've come out of it, they've learned their lessons. They can connect better with our small business customers.
So was it always then a plan to have a group of sages and not just yourself as the head the sage, the coach?
Yes. It
Okay.
was. And so Sagely wasn't my first startup. I tried kind of to get into the startup world in late 2017, 2018, with a product called Dig. And it was an open source background check app for dating. A great idea. I think it's still a great idea, but the amount of money you'd have to raise and just kind of the fluidity of the regulatory environment was a lot for investors to want to invest in like a first time entrepreneur.
Mm,
Um, but kind of in that process, I learned a lot. And while I was doing that, I started consulting when I left corporate. So initially with bigger companies and then through referrals with small businesses. And I just really fell in love with working with small businesses. The startup didn't work out, but the consulting kind of took off. And it got to a point where I had to turn down clients because I just couldn't scale myself. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, this isn't the answer. You know, I got so much out of helping my small business clients, but couldn't scale. I tried to hire people and bring people on. It just didn't really work out. So I knew I had to find a way to scale kind of the impact that I was making for my clients, and Sagely was that way.
what do you think was the biggest hiccup or hurdle you've had to kind of work through in building Sagely?
I think it's yourself,
Mm,
right?
okay.
Like with with most entrepreneurs, um, especially early stage, there's so many people telling you different things, right? There's so many people telling you that, oh, this isn't going to scale, you know, why don't you try this, or you should do this, or this is like how you should approach this situation. And that's all great advice. But you have to kind of inherently know how to kind of sift through that advice. Take what, like, an entrepreneur needs to have kind of unique perspective into the problem that they're solving, and they need to have like that vision and almost certainty, like and clear path to that north star, right? But without being so rigid that you can't pivot if need be. So
Mm.
that, I think that was the most difficult thing, just kind of working through the various bits of advice, um, that I gave myself and that other people gave me.
Well, how often are you getting like advice from the other Sagely coaches or mentors?
All the time.
Yeah.
I love, yes, I am a user of our product. And so our website, our redesign website was just launched not too long ago. And we went through a bunch of different iterations, but we worked with our branding sages to really identify kind of um, how to communicate directly to our customer, right? What words to use, what segments to put kind of upfront. And so these are things that your normal small business owner just doesn't have time to think about, right? Or doesn't have that background. They don't have like 15 years of marketing and branding, you know, go to market background to understand that. And so accessing kind of that knowledge and having access to kind of this broad um, bank of experience and knowledge has been extremely helpful for me.
Has there ever been a moment where you're looking to grow sagely and there's a issue or something that you're trying to figure out and you're like, I need a mentor that I can bring to sagely, but also maybe ask them some questions about this problem I'm having?
Yes, so we do. I mean, we're an early stage startup, so we don't have like 100
Mm,
stages on our platform, right? But we're constantly keeping track of what our customers want.
mm,
And so, for example, a few weeks ago, one of our customers like, hey, we just paid like a really high tax bill. right? I need some tax advisory support. And we're like, okay, that's like the third time we've heard that. Maybe we should elevate like finding small business tax advisors.
Where do you see the platform and yourself going in the next 5 years? I mean, going back to that book, the 5 year book. I mean, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, I'd like to be able to grow safely into a brand, kind of that's synonymous with small businesses,
Hmm,
right? If you look at the data that's available, believe we believe, and we are kind of on the cusp of this paradigm shift in how and why people want to work, right? And so there's going to be, and we've seen a huge increase in people wanting to start their own business, right? People having side hustles, freelancers, and I think 2021, what we saw a record number of new business applications in the US, 5.3 million new businesses.
hmm,
But if you look at kind of the business failure rates, they remain kind of stagnant over the past decade. And so every single year, about 20% kind of fail that first year, 50% fail within 5 years, and about 70% don't make it to the 10-year mark. And so
hmm.
we want to see a real change in that statistic, and we want to be kind of part of that change. We see that there's a lot of resources available for people that want to start a business, right? You can kind of start it in a couple of hours online. But when you run into kind of issues after you start your business, that's where the support kind of dies out.
Are there any sages that you want to get to the platform but haven't been able to get them on yet, or are there people in your pocketbook, or how often does that actually happen where it's like, I really want this person, but I gotta talk them into it, or maybe they're not ready for it, or anything
Yeah,
like that
so
ever happen?
there's a couple. There's a couple people. I don't want to call anyone out, but I have a list of people that I want to approach at certain times. When we're ready, again, we're kind of early stage, but we're starting to grow and we're starting to get a lot of interest. I think the challenge for us is it's so new what we're doing, right? It's not something that people are used to paying for or just having access to. And so people have a lot of questions. There's a lot of educating that we need to do, and social proof that we need to kind of provide. Hey, this works for small businesses, and they love us, right? And so I think as we start to develop all of those things, it'll be easier for us to get the stages that we want. But we're also picky. I mean, I think when you're talking kind of about building a platform right now, this two-sided platform business, kind of like Uber, they had to figure out like which side was like easier to scale, right? Is the customers or riders or drivers? For us, the Sage side has been really easy to scale because there is this huge movement, I think, in society as a whole for wanting to make a difference, right? Being nice is cool now, which is awesome. um, but people get to a point in their careers where they're like, okay, well, we actually want to help. We want to make a difference.
Mm.
We want to use our experience and our expertise to make it easier for someone else. And that's
What's
what
I
we're
mean,
seeing.
what's the best way for being people that are looking to start a business that would be good to maybe join the platform, or maybe someone that's maybe selling their business and kind of getting out of it and looking for another pathway to be a sage? I mean, what's the best way for both those people to find more information about Sagely?
It's so funny. So you can go to our website, www.mysagely.com, and just sign up or chat with us. There's a lot of FAQs on the site. If you have questions about how our sages are vetted, how the sessions work, how the subscription works, there's also a page on how to become a sage. And so you can submit your info there, and our team will get back to you to schedule kind of the onboarding interview process. Um, but our first customer was actually a company, a small business that has been around for about 30 years.
Hmm.
And they were looking to sell, and they got an offer from another business and just wanted to The owner is definitely an expert in his own right, right? But he just wanted to kind of get some advice on negotiating points and what's common, what to avoid, any prep work that he should do before going to the negotiating table. And so we were able to connect him to a couple of our sages that provided kind of um, that very specific personalized advice in that area. Both of which actually have had a couple of successful exits as small business owners and entrepreneurs themselves. So I think they're nearing a sale. Fingers crossed. Not going to name any names.
Well, I want to finish up just one last question. Is your father a sage on the platform?
No, he's not. Um, he's not, but he's very supportive of what we're doing here at Sagely. And so my dad is a really amazing kind of mentor for me personally. He's when I was scared to kind of take that jump, he's like, if you're gonna jump, don't be scared, right? You already jumped. So he's very supportive.
Well, thank you, Michele, for being on the Road to Growth podcast. Hopefully, everyone listening got some great nuggets. Go in the show notes, just to take a look at Sagely. It has a lot of information right there you can take on. If you're looking to start a business, it doesn't hurt to look. I mean, you can look at the menu, maybe not buy, see if it's a good fit for you, and if it is, perfect. If it's not, maybe you took away some knowledge that can help you on your pathway towards success. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Michele, for being here. Go in the show notes and go find Michele. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.